So, Pouring Faith was made out of us realising how powerful it can be when people share their story. Not just the polished version, but the real, messy, honest stuff about how they found God or how their faith's grown over time. We've both had moments where someone else's stories completely shifted something for us, whether it be a video on YouTube or just over coffee. Hearing that someone else had been through doubt and hurt and confusion, but still found God in the middle of it, was huge.
And we just thought, why not create a space for that? A space for the people around us to share their stories and get their stories across. And that's Pouring Faithyt.
So each video is going to be a one-on-one conversation between us and a guest where they share their story. We're going to keep it really relaxed. It's going to be in a local coffee shop, no big cameras or lights or anything fancy, just a phone, a couple of microphones and a heart-to-heart chat.
We will be asking a few guiding questions, but it's not going to be like scripted and edited like a lot of the high production sort of testimonies you see. But we're wanting to kind of get forward that whole vibe of truth and honesty and people sharing their actual gritty stories as to how they found themselves walking down that sort of path. So for me, I didn't actually grow up going to church or anything like that. I always believed in God, even as a kid, but the kind of understanding I had was more of just an occasional one-sided conversation. And I never linked anything good happening in my life with God. I would always link the bad things that happened as God, which then kind of created this sort of strange level of understanding when it comes to faith, as I never learned to appreciate the stuff that I'd been blessed with, and instead I would blame everything bad on God. That affected me throughout my life with the journey of finding faith, because the only thing I had in my head at the time was to reject faith, really. I kind of saw God as like a transactional thing. So to me, if I wasn't having any crazy stuff happening to me like positively, I wanted nothing to do with it at all, essentially. After going through some pretty heavy trauma when I was young, that really reinforced that sort of transactional belief that I had. And the negative experience grew towards more of a feeling of like hatred towards me. Like everything bad that happened was intentionally sent by God to me as some sort of punishment for the sinful thoughts I'd have. And obviously when you're a child, you don't have the cognitive abilities to understand that sin's going to happen no matter what. So I always believed it. And I think a lot of people actually believe this is the idea that if you're a Christian, you just cannot sin at all. If you're Christian and you sin, you go straight to hell or whatever. I essentially thought that that's what was happening to me, and my life was being moulded into a way that represents hell more than it does our like waking life. In this particular stage of my life, I had a lot of feelings of feeling unsafe, which kind of comes with trauma, I guess, but it's hard to juggle a belief with God with feeling unsafe. I always just wondered why wasn't I protected by God. That whole like situation gave me quite a bit of religious trauma. By the time I turned 15, I completely turned away from any sort of idea of faith, and drugs kind of became my faith almost. So once I'd rejected the idea of faith and turned to drugs instead, the drugs became an escape for me for, many different aspects of life. But the only way I knew to numb my trauma was through numbing myself with drugs. And that path is a quick path to hell, essentially, in terms of what your life becomes. And I fell deeper and deeper into addiction. I didn't really care about anything anymore. It's like a feeling of being lost. And due to this feeling of being completely lost and like isolated from everyone around me, I just went like headfirst deep into like a rabbit hole of nihilism. For me, it was like, if there really is nothing out there, then what is the point of here and now? So after becoming involved with drugs at such a young age and using them to numb me, I never really developed skills I needed to get through the difficult times without it creating such a strong burden on me over time. And this cycle went on all the way until around 2 years ago. That's when I was 27. And by the time I hit that age, there's only a certain amount of time in which you can successfully numb yourself with drugs. So once the drugs stopped working, I kind of came out of the other end of this numbness that I'd had for so long to realise that there was nothing really waiting for me on the other side. In a way, it kind of felt like I'd been born at the age of 27. And all of a sudden I had all these issues that I had to deal with, and with them all suddenly coming onto me at once, it really pushed me to question who I am, what I believe in, what I need to do next. It's through that struggle and those philosophical questions that kind of allowed me for the first time in my life to look at religion while destroying any of the bias that I'd carried with me for so long around it. And once I'd looked at it objectively, that's kind of where I was very surprised to essentially find God at the end of it. And it's something that I would have never ever expected. And through my experience and how drastically I'd changed as I've grown older, that is what made Christian testimonies so meaningful to me. Because once I'd got through that tunnel and I was confused as to what it was that I was feeling and whether it was even a connection with God that I was looking for, it's watching people's testimonies who were previous drug addicts, criminals, all sorts of people from all these different walks of life kind of showed me you don't actually have to be a certain type of person or a certain type of way or been through a certain type of thing to arrive at faith in the end. And it wasn't a choice really of mine, it's just one day I believed, and then since then it just feels like once you develop faith it's very difficult to like disconnect yourself from that, because it's almost like you've seen something completely new for the first time that recontextualizes everything else. So how do I pull myself back out of it? And that it's once I had them sort of thoughts that I was wrestling with when I kind of realized all of a sudden one day that I was just a Christian.
And for me, I didn't grow up religious at all. My family was actually atheists, so God and faith were never really something in our house. I kind of just assumed that people believed in God because they needed something to hold on to, but it didn't feel like it was for me. I knew about religions. I was taught a lot about different religions in school. Never really felt connected to any of them, though again, just thought it was something that other people believed in, but not me. In June of last year, I met Macca. I was in one of the lowest places I've been in a long time. Life just felt heavy and I was tired. I was emotionally drained. I knew where I wanted to go in life but couldn't get there, and I didn't know where things were going. From the beginning, Macca brought this calm, kind energy and light that I hadn't experienced before. He started telling me about Jesus, with him being religious, and I'll be honest, at first I was sceptical. We had plenty of heated discussions about religion and such. I had this predetermined idea of religion that prevented me from ever truly considering faith and opening myself up to it. But there was just something different about the way that he spoke about it. It wasn't preachy or forced, it wasn't shoved down my throat, it wasn't you trying to convert me, it was just real, it was honest, it was true. And then things started to happen, little signs, little nudges, finding 3 lost sheep, literally. Moments that felt too personal to be random, like it was something or someone trying to get my attention. And slowly but surely I started to believe. It wasn't overnight, but it was undeniable. And now, looking back, I can see that God had been gently guiding me the whole time. Meeting Macca was part of that, obviously, but so was every step after. I found faith when I wasn't even looking, and it's completely changed the way that I see life. I have purpose now, not only just for Macca and us, but for God and living a life with Christ.
Kind of like getting spiritually slapped in the face.
Yeah. I got punched in the face by God and waked up.
Yeah. And it's through the conversations that we had about TJ's lack of faith and my faith, it's somewhere deep into those sorts of conversations that we had that really showed me the idea of the people who have spent most of their life non-religious tend to be the people that go in the hardest when they do find faith. Because for me, I started to realise how the vast majority of the things that I was doing were my own creative ways of finding God without knowing that is what I was doing. So once I decided to look further into it, I kind of realised how many people actually do come from our sort of background and find God. I believed for so long that Christians were this sort of goody two-shoes, sort of delusionally hopeful people. And I used to believe it's all just so fake. But when I did look into it, I kind of figured out that it's a massive amount of people that have come from stuff like trauma and drug addiction and poverty and, all sorts of things, which it's when we discovered that, when we had this idea of, I wonder what the story is for the people around us, for the people that we stand behind at church and that sort of thing. So we decided we wanted to start having a conversation with these people. And from there is when Pouring Faith the concept came along, because it's okay talking to people about it, but if we gain so much, like I definitely did, through people's testimonies, I kind of figured, why not film and share our own to the local people around us? Because whenever I watch the testimonies, it's usually like an American person or something like that. So I thought it'd be really cool if someone around our local area was kind of putting forth people's stories. Even if one person watches these testimonies and then inquires and realises that they're religious, you know, that's kind of a job well done, really, isn't it?
The way Macca's testimony affected me showed me how testimonies can affect others, how powerful they can be, how eye-opening they can be. And that's what made us decide to start Pouring Faith, in hopes of showing others how amazing God can be. So if you're watching and you're thinking that you've got a story to tell, we would love to hear from you. Doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian, doesn't matter how proper or put together your story is. If God has been moving in your life, your story is worth sharing.
If you've got a story that impacted you in the same way, that kind of brought you closer to Christianity, it'd be cool to get some sort of thing going where we have one person's testimony and then
Person who affected them.
they can speak about the testimony that they got theirs from. And it's kind of like a cool, you know, that's how it usually works, to be fair. It's a very word of mouth thing that eventually leads to salvation and grace and all that good stuff.
If you're not ready to share, that is absolutely fine. If you just want to watch along and be encouraged, please subscribe, follow along with our journey and everybody else's journey to finding Christianity. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'll do that.
That's funny.